Your blade. It did not cut deep enough. Oh, that's so cool!
Egil telling Shulk that his sword didn't cut deep enough is one of my favorite lines in any fictional setting across any and all forms of media you could name. Right up there with Iroh telling Zuko that he was never angry with him, Garrett telling the Nilfgaardian soldier that he's killing monsters, and Dalinar telling Odium to piss off at the end of Oathbringer.
You cannot have my pain!
All of these other lines are brilliant in their own right, but Egil's line is especially noteworthy. Any decent writer will tell you that a good scene will always be accomplishing at least two things at once. Not only is the scene where this line is delivered doing exactly that, but the line on its own has 3 layers of meaning behind it, both in the context of the scene itself and the broader context of Xenoblade Chronicles. Your blade didn't cut deep enough is one of the smartest and well thought out lines I have ever seen in any work of fiction. For full context, the story begins when Shulk's home of Colony 9 is attacked by the robotic menace known as the Mechon. They inflict significant damage to the place and its people, Shulk's would-be girlfriend Fiora being among the casualties. Witnessing her brutal death at the hands of a particular Mechon called Metalface, Shulk takes possession of an incredible weapon known as the Monado, and he and his childhood friend Rein set out after the Mechon to avenge their home and Fiora. At first, Shulk's motives are purely selfish, avenging his home and Fiora, but as he meets the other inhabitants of the Bionis and gathers allies to fight the Mechon, his motives grow and evolve to the point where it's more about protecting the Bionis' people from the Mechonis, the mechanical counterpart to the Bionis, and understanding why the Mechon are attacking them in the first place. His motives change significantly more when he arrives on the Mechonis' fallen arm and discovers a village of robotic people called the Machina, the aboriginal people of the Mechonis. The Machina explain that their leader, Egil, created the Mechon and started the war with the Bionis to get revenge on Zanza, the deific spirit of the Bionis, who attacked his people and turned a lifelong friend of his into an enemy by possessing his body 1,000 years ago. Zanza was eventually sealed away by the High Entia, but Egil knew that sealing him was only going to be a temporary solution. Thus, he spent the next 1,000 years plotting to destroy Zanza in order to avenge his people and protect what's left of them. In short, his motives for attacking the Bionis are not that different from Shulk's, a combination of revenge and survival. Even before knowing the full context of the battle between the Bionis and the Mechonis, Shulk recognizes the similarities between his drive and Egil's. So when he and his friends confront Egil in the Mechonis capital city of Agniritha, his first instinct is to attempt to reason with Egil rather than fight him directly. Here, Egil elaborates on his motives for attacking the people of Bionis. He's convinced that the best way to destroy the Bionis is to weaken its ether reserves, and to do that, he's ensuring that the organic life on Bionis is abducted from it in order to deprive it of vital resources.
My body, your bodies. You are aware that ether is the foundation of them all. Unlike the Mechonis, the Bionis feeds on ether provided by those who return to it.
His attack on the people of Bionis is purely impersonal, done out of a desire to weaken Zanza and the Bionis, rather than a direct hatred for its people. Upon hearing this, Shulk attempts to convince Egil that the people of Bionis have suffered just as the Machina have, and that there's no reason why they can't all live in peace. But Egil refuses to surrender, his hatred for Zanza and his conviction to see the Bionis destroyed too strong for Shulk to reason with him. Shulk and his friends engage Egil, and over the course of the fight, Shulk is able to injure him, whereupon the scene in question takes place. It starts with Egil wondering how it's even possible for Shulk to injure him, especially with the device that Egil employed to counteract the Monado's power, and Shulk informing him that he already knows how it's possible.
How could this happen even with the Apocrypha?
You know, Egil. You know the reason.
And Shulk knows that Egil knows how it's possible, because the reason is the very same reason why Egil is so determined to see the Bionis destroyed.
The power of the will to protect your own. Is that what you refer to?
Having Egil explicitly spell that reason out without Shulk directly explaining it to him is absolutely crucial. It establishes that Egil, like Shulk, is aware of the similarities between them. They're both motivated by a desire to keep their own safe. He then proceeds to question his sister Vinea on her motives for bringing Shulk and company to Agniritha in the first place, informing her that her life is now forfeit for betraying him.
You would side with those of Bionis and attack me. You have forfeited your right to exist.
Not particularly deep, I'll grant you, but that's just because it's only meant to set up the next beat in the cutscene. That beat being Vinea informing Egil that, rather than siding with the Bionis, she's brought Shulk and company to Agniritha because she can no longer endorse his actions, and that not even the surviving Machina believe his actions are justified. They realize that the people of the Bionis are innocent and don't deserve what Egil is doing to them.
If that is to be my fate, I gladly accept, brother. as would any of the villagers.
Of course, the fact that the life on Bionis is innocent is not something that's lost on Egil. He's well aware that they're not responsible for what happened between the two titans. But Egil doesn't care. He sees the abductions and murders of the Homs as necessary to weaken Zanza and eventually defeat him. A notion not helped by Egil viewing them as insects, no real threat.
You are nothing more than bugs to be devoured by my sworn adversary.
Even the fact that the very people he seeks to protect don't want him to go through with his plan does nothing to change his mind. He finds it a more interesting aside than a world-shaking revelation.
So the few remaining members of my people have now betrayed me. Interesting.
This might not seem all that significant in the grand scheme of things, but I'd argue it lends further credence to Shulk and Egil being foils for one another. While they are both driven for essentially the same reasons, the people that Shulk seeks to protect are fully on board with what he seeks to accomplish, the remaining Machina included.
The villagers and I, we just wanted all this fighting to stop. All we wanted was to live with you in peace.
But Vinay's pleas for Egil to stop fall on deaf ears. He is convinced that the Bionis is still a threat and is determined to see it destroyed.
There will never be peace until the Bionis is destroyed.
And with Egil's conviction renewed, he reveals that his injury was merely a flesh wound, grabbing Shulk and holding him up by the head as he pulls the Monado from his shoulder.
Your blade, it did not cut deep enough.
Oh my god, he's so goddamn cool!
Okay, so I mentioned a moment ago that there were 3 layers of meaning behind this line. The first and most obvious is the immediate surface level meaning, that while Shulk's attack injured him, it was not as serious as they initially thought.
'Tis but a scratch.
The second layer is a more symbolic one. The whole point of having this scene take place is to have Shulk and Vinaya make an earnest attempt to reason with Egil and defeat him with words rather than violence. Having the scene start with Shulk injuring Egil, only for that earnest attempt to reason with him fail, and Egil immediately telling Shulk that he failed to deal a critical blow afterwards, gives the line a double meaning, that they were unable to get through to him. You tried to reason with me, but you couldn't convince me to end the war.
You are unwise to lower your defenses.
The third, and by far the most intelligent meaning, is the character one. Remember how I said that having Egil explicitly spell out the reason why Shulk was able to injure him was so crucial? Well, another element of that beat that is equally crucial is having the scene start with Shulk injuring Egil. Remember, Shulk was only able to injure Egil in the first place because he has the same drive as Egil, and the scene ends with Egil's convictions, his desire, his drive renewed. Egil specifically says that Shulk's blade didn't cut deep enough. He's addressing him personally when he says it. He's not just saying that Shulk failed to deal a serious blow, nor is he just saying that they failed to convince him to back down. He's telling Shulk that while they are both driven by the same desire, his desire to protect his people and get revenge on Zanza is stronger than Shulk's desire to protect all life on Bionis. The reason Shulk was able to injure Egil in this scene is the same reason Egil is able to shrug off that very attack. He is essentially telling Shulk, you and I want the same thing. The only difference is, I want it more.
Permit me to apologize for calling you bugs just now. You proved to be a worthy adversary after all.